Psalm 41, 1 through 3 says, "How blessed is he who considers the helpless. The Lord will deliver him in a day of trouble. The Lord will protect him and keep him alive, and he shall be called blessed upon the earth. And do not give him over to the desire of his enemies. The Lord will sustain him upon his sickbed, and in his illness you restore his health." Well, if you're joining us in reading through this 6-month reading plan through the book of Psalms, today's reading is Psalm 41, and I encourage you to read that psalm. Well, I'd like you to notice that David shows 4 attributes of God in these first 3 verses. He is a deliverer, protector, sustainer, and restorer. And God displays all 4 of these attributes for those who consider the helpless. Now, the word helpless here has also been translated as weak and lowly, depressed, needy, poor, and least of all. This gives us a clear indication of the type of people to whom God, and a believer in God, should minister. It also gives us an indication of what God will do for those who help those who are helpless. Now, if you think about it, we are all helpless. We are all in need. At times, each of us gets depressed, and many times we find ourselves surrounded by all kinds of poverty, spiritual as well as physical, and God heals us. He provides for us. He considers us. So we're to follow the model that God set up for us. We're not to ignore those who are in need, because we're all in need. If we ignore those who are in need, we'll also be ignored when we are in need. And God's blessing, his protection, and his deliverance will not be realized by us on a daily basis. So how are we to consider the helpless? Now, the word consider here means to be mindful of. It means that we're to understand helplessness. We're to recognize that there are those who are in need, and we are not to ignore them. Now, I realize that in today's world, particularly here in the United States, there is a large and growing population of those who are homeless, and many of them have the feeling that these are just people who have chosen to live off the generosity of others rather than lift themselves up by their bootstraps, so to speak, and do what is right. Certainly part of the homeless population is like that. They are manipulators. But a large part of homelessness is not due to succumbing to manipulation. It is a result of many factors, but the most prominent one is the fact that they do not have a relationship with God. James tells us in chapter 2 of his letter that we are not to ignore those who are in need just by telling them that we will pray for them. We are to help them physically as well as lead them spiritually. But unless we do these things at the same time, we will fail those who are in need, and we will fail us in our walk with Christ. Being filled with pride because we're not in need shows that we're desperately in need of repentance. And if you would like a PDF copy of this entire reading plan, please send an email to phineasjacobus@runningtohim.net.